But Kathy, we can run through the agenda real quickly.
Yeah, why don't we do that? My grandson, just a heads up, my grandson is coming in around 7. So I'll be able to mute because I think Joe will be on at that point, but I may have to leave for a second or two just to say hi to him and then come back. He's moving to Houston, so we're going to babysit him for a few days until he can find an apartment. He hopes. Anyway, did you want to share the screen with me, Chuck?
You have the presentation, I thought. Certainly.
Yeah, no. Do you want to? Can I?
Oh yeah, it's shared. You just
Okay.
go right ahead. It's open. Yeah. There you go.
Can you see that?
Sure can.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So now. There. Okay. This is just a welcome everyone to our meeting, to our Zoom meeting. It seems to be this is becoming a monthly event anymore and probably till the end of the year. So the first slide is just tips for Zoom, which is included every meeting, just a reminder of how to mute your microphone. And if you have a question, to go ahead and put it into the chat. And during share and learn, be sure and unmute your microphone so that you can talk about your photos. Then I talked to Pam Walton. Pam, are you there?
Thought I saw Pam.
She's there.
I'm
Pam,
here. I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, did you want to talk about the membership real quick?
Yes, we now have 80 memberships as of today. I'm very excited about that.
Yay.
Yes, and I see we've had 5 new members since our last meeting.
Cool.
I see someone is here, but I'm not sure if everyone's here. Andrew Williams, Sonia Showalter, Ryan Nelson Paryeg, Carlos Galvan, and Alma Montemeyer. And I see Alma is here. I don't know if anybody of the rest of them are here or not, but Alma, we welcome you to our meeting.
Excellent. I do know that Carlos and Ryan both did share and learn, so hopefully that they will be here also. And
Good.
Sonia is part of our mentor program,
Yeah.
Chuck?
Yes, she is. She joined because of that. She is a professional. She has her own shop here and stuff.
So that's excellent. So we're getting members active immediately, which is great.
Yeah.
So thank you, Pam.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is just a quick slide to remind you of where to keep up with all of our club announcements, either with the website or on our Facebook. And if you go to it, Chris Summers is one of our best writers. I mean, he's probably on it at least twice a day. I'm not sure what else Chris does, but he is on Facebook a lot. And he has a lot of tips. Chuck is on it. We post the photographer's lunch, everything, the pop-up. Activities that we'll be doing will be posted on Facebook. So this is our go-to page when you're between meetings to find out what's going on. And Chuck, did you want to talk about the workshops?
Yeah, we've had our last workshop was a nice, simple little workshop on envisioning, basically creating art after you've taken the picture or not taken it, when you're getting ready to take the picture, after you know your camera well and how to use your camera, what it is, how do you compose the shot to tell a story, what's important in it, and things like that. So we got into some pretty deep philosophy on art and what the nature of truth is. And then the next workshop coming up in August is going to be on re-envisioning, which is taking that vision that you had when you took the picture, looking at the two-dimensional image on the screen and seeing what you can do with it, bringing that vision to life. So we'll be talking about that, getting into post-processing, which I believe strongly is a very important part of taking pictures. I'm not one of those people that says he just came out of the camera and it was wonderful. Very rare does the picture do that for me. Anyways, we'll be talking about that. So that's good. And then we get into September. We don't have anything booked. If somebody wants to do a workshop in September, I'd be very happy to take you. And then on October 3rd, Chris will do children's portraiture. If you've ever seen some of his pictures on Facebook, they're fabulous. Maybe he just has good looking grandchildren. I'm not sure what it is, but because it's certainly not him. They didn't pick up his genes. Anyways, and then November, nothing. And December, we typically skip workshops. So we're getting through the year. We've hit almost every single month this year, which is good.
Mhm. And then I'll let you do the next couple of slides.
Well,
Also,
this is for those people who've come to these lunches. They've been extremely intellectual. Yeah, Pam, don't put your hand over your mouth. I see you doing that. No, we've had some very good conversations. The idea with this lunch thing is exactly. It seems strange because we don't do anything. We have no agenda, no topic. We just show up, and whatever comes out of our mouths comes out of our mouth. And it's the idea is that we don't get to see each other physically very much. So maybe virtually we'll hold this club together by just seeing each other's faces once in a while and having a little chat. So that's all it's about. People come. We've had 8 or 9 people on each one of these lunches. They've been fun. We've had some really interesting topics, to say the least. I guess we got into, what was it last time? I won't say. Okay.
and then this is our new program, mentoring.
Yeah, mentoring. Yeah, mentoring. I put a page up on mentoring. I had a question from a lady that I believe her name was Monica. I met with her the other day. She asked a question: could somebody help her learn how to get off auto and use manual on her camera? Simple question. And I said, sure, I'd help. And I'd zoom it because she uses Nikon. She's a Nikon shooter, so I know Nikon. I could help her. But then I started thinking to myself, we really ought to open this up to anybody who has a question. So we have a page on our website listed with mentors there, people who've agreed to get a call. So there's a button next to each name, and there's a little description of what kind of camera they use, that sort of thing. So if anybody's interested, they can go over there, click. You'll get a message from somebody, and your job is to help them out. Answer their question, or if you can't answer their question, tell them where they can get the answer. That's what it's about.
And then down below, you have what you need if you want to become a mentor. They have to send in a profile picture, headshot.
A headshot. So if you're gonna, if you want to be a mentor, just join up. It doesn't matter. I don't know if there's such a thing as too many. But we have, a headshot. So you have a picture. Go to the website. You can see what it is. Your name, email. I need it obviously because I have to. The button that you click sends an email to you. Phone number, maybe not. I don't want to post phone numbers on the website. I thought of that at first, but then I thought, no, maybe not. The brand of camera you use, so somebody's looking for Pentax cameras, he can find somebody that shoots Pentax. That kind of thing. Interests, what kind of things you like to do. Do you do any post-processing? If you do, what software? And anything else you want to say about yourself?
I don't have a headshot.
Well, you can make one up. Well, you should have seen what Emily, is Emily on this thing? I don't know if she is. Emily sent me a couple of pictures that I could not post. I would not post.
Really?
she sent me one that was good, but the other ones, I don't know where she got them, but I don't know.
Well,
typical Emily. No,
it was the one you posted was in a tree.
yeah, that's right. She gave me a good one, but typical Emily, she gave me one that I couldn't post.
It was me as a goddess.
Yeah, as a god. I thought it was pretty good, Emily, but I wasn't going to post it.
Oh my God.
No guts, no glory.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, we're getting good memory. We have up to 39 people now.
Oh, excellent. Post-processing. Chuck, you in your email said something that the last time nobody showed up, so you were going to rethink the post-processing SIG?
Well, we need to think a little bit about our topics. Our topic last time was to go out and see if we can get some of these free trials on some of these softwares and then review them, with each other. I picked up Nick software, DxO's Nick software, and I ended up buying the stupid thing. It's expensive, but I ended up buying it. It was a free 30-day trial, but I liked it so much I went ahead and bought it.
Yeah.
But we have to think about what our topics are a little bit more carefully.
So are you still going to have a meeting this third?
Yeah, we'll have the meeting. I just got to think of a topic.
Okay, so you'll get that out before Thursday, I guess.
Yeah, I'll get something out.
And then Jim Everett, I see you there. The portraiture is still kind of on hold.
Yeah, can you hear me at all?
Very,
Yes.
very lightly.
Faintly.
Yeah, I'm having problems with the computer. Well, yeah, we still have the group, but until such time as we can actually meet, do practice and stuff like that, it's gonna be tough. So
Yeah.
we're just on hold right now.
Okay. All right. So then Anne, is Anne here?
Nope.
Ann Mullins. I had sent her a note asking for what's going on. And basically, due to the coronavirus, we really can't plan events like we used to. So it's more of a pop-up. It's like something comes up and we get enough people interested. I had a meeting with, Zoom meeting with Jim Skeppens today. And one of the things that both of them said was after this talk to do downtown architectural trip, which
Yeah.
would be a day
That'd be
trip,
good.
very easy.
Yeah.
And then Jim was saying that photographing Kingwood churches, either early morning or late afternoon, everyone could drive themselves and then meet and be social distancing while they're there. And then there's within a 100-mile radius of Houston, there's a lot of interesting towns and things, which might be another idea for a day trip, which we could still do and be safe. And then he was talking about maybe 2021, a trip to the Black Hills of South Dakota. The last trip that the group took, I think, was Yellowstone. Chuck, is that right?
Uh,
Oh, we went to,
No.
Oh,
we
you
went
went
to
to,
Vicksburg.
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you went to the Monument Valley. That was the last trip, big trip that we took. So we've done other ones too. Nacogdoches, not Nacogdoches, but Jim, Jim Skeppens, where was that trip that you went to? Vicksburg?
We went
Yeah,
to
Vicksburg.
Vicksburg, right. That was in
Yeah,
Mississippi. Yeah.
That was the last one. So
What about this comet?
So
That's
we've done other ones too. Nacogdoches, not Nacogdoches, but Jim, Jim Skeppens? Where was that trip that you went to? Vicksburg?
Yeah, Vicksburg.
Right, that was in Mississippi.
That was the last one. So
What about this comet?
it seems like a video loop or something. Anyway, so these are the ideas that we've come up with, and I think Ann will have another activities meeting so that we can come up with more. But watch the web and watch the Facebook for ideas for the pop-up activities.
What about the comet? What about the comet that's out there now?
Well, tonight might be a good night, but we're in a meeting, so unless we all want to get out an hour after sunset, places to go. You have to have a view of the Big Dipper. And unfortunately, when we were in the beach and I had this excellent spot to take a picture of the Big Dipper and all, we had cloud cover, so I couldn't get any pictures. But the East End Park, where the meadow is, you can see the Big Dipper very well. My husband said that he goes to the schools where you've got a little bit of room away from the trees, as long as you can get to see the Big Dipper. And at this time, it's probably 2 fists above the horizon. So if you put your fist out, that's 10 degrees. And if you put another one, it's 20 degrees. It should be about 20 degrees above the horizon. The pictures that I've seen on the web are usually about an hour after sunset. So it's still kind of like twilight. And I'll probably get out eventually again before it goes away. I'm not sure when the last sighting will be.
I think they said like July 22nd.
July
Oh, that's
22nd.
today.
Yeah, that's 2 days from now.
Or tomorrow? Is that tomorrow? July 22nd?
Tomorrow's,
Oh, there's Ann.
Yes, hi.
Awesome.
So anyway, we had just gone over activities and you had talked about doing the downtown architectural trip. And then
Yes, I heard you.
And I had talked about, Jim suggested photographing the Kingwood churches and then going on a day trip, 100-mile radius of Kingwood for
Right,
different.
there's a lot of these cute little towns that are trying to come back to life.
Yes.
Like, and they usually have nice little stores and restaurants and some interesting old architecture too. You know, they're trying to leave it for spaces, but you have to get off the main trip. I think we've all been through Giddings, and yeah, there's some cute stuff there, but it's on a very busy street.
Mm-hmm.
But there's more out there. I think, you know, there's little Schulenbergs and Flatonias and
Yeah, he said that you guys.
Brazos Bend State Park, but you have to have a reservation. You have to call them and let them know you're coming.
okay.
So anyway,
Right, that's how, yeah. And remember, it's hot out there. And we tried to do something last August. I wasn't here, but people did, and they were still complaining.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking this might be something for September, October. So these are just things to put down the back of your mind so you can think about it and hopefully put
I
on.
personally would like to see some of the COVID numbers start going down,
Yeah. Before you
getting
actually.
out there again.
Yeah. So.
I think, I saw it kind of plateauing in the last few days, and
Uh-huh.
in the next 2 weeks, we might see that.
Oh. Chuck,
Yeah.
you have a video from Bill. I'm going to give you back the screen and then you can keep it so that
And
you.
that is Joy Fields, by the way.
Their way.
That is Joy Fields. Sorry, Mr. Email.
Oh yeah. No.
She's a new member. Joy, you here tonight? Okay. No, she's a new member, and
Okay.
it's delightful to
Yes.
get to know her.
It is so exciting to see new members getting involved in the club.
Yeah.
It
I don't
really
see
helps
Joy here.
keep things together. Okay, I'm going to unshare my stop share, and
Okay.
it's over to you now.
So you want me to start that video out? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that. See if I can get this up here.
Hey, Kathy,
Yeah.
you hear me? Let's make sure everybody knows that we only pay half of our dues after July 1st.
Yes. Pam, I asked Pam and she said that any new member that comes on after July pays 50%.
Okay. I'm going to start this one. Can you see it?
Well, I hear it, but I don't see
Oh,
it.
sorry. Let's stop the share then. Hold on. Stop it. All right.
Oh, catchy tune.
Well, there it is. Stop it. All right.
Technical difficulties.
For some reason, Al will try it again. Okay, oh, I had wrong screen. Maybe that's wrong. Give this a shot. Okay, do you see a screen?
Yes.
Yep, sure. I do.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Let's get this thing back to the beginning. I want to give Bill his cue here.
Good.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bill, for making our photos look so great. But also, if you have never been to those painted churches, it's definitely worth the trip. They are fabulous.
They really
Are-
look like it.
Yeah, they are difficult to photograph, but
Small
that's part of
space
the
and-
challenge.
Small space and dim light.
Well, and then you have some very bright lights coming in through the windows. So you have
Yes,
bright lights blowing out plus a dim light inside and, you know, very tall ceilings, but beautiful, beautiful.
beautiful. Jim Skeppens,
Yes.
if you want to go ahead and introduce our speaker.
Okay. Be glad to do that. Tonight, we're in for a real treat. We have Joe Aker, who is an internationally recognized photographer for architecture. Joe grew up in Oklahoma, went to Central State in Edmond, and got a business degree. And then he went to the Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York, and got a degree in photography. I didn't know they had degrees in photography, so I learned something. His works have appeared in virtually every major architectural magazine in this country. He's worked with most of the top architects in this country and some of the top architects globally. He's, let's see, and what he's going to do is it's something that's intrigued me is how do you take good pictures of buildings? Because I'm always screwing it up. So, but anyway, Joe's going to give us some real good pointers, I think. Oh, and the other thing is he has a permanent exhibit at the Museum of Fine Arts. So if the next time we get down there, be on the lookout to see some of his works on exhibit at MFA. Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Actually, my work is in the permanent collection. It's not always on view. So, but they have a great program down there. It's always a pleasure to talk to camera clubs. I grew up in the camera clubs in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Camera Club. I was 17 when I joined a camera club, and I'm sure that I was at least 20 years younger than anybody else in the camera club. So I rapidly became their kid, and they all treated me like mother and dad.
Oh, that's sweet.
And it was absolutely wonderful. The professional photographers wouldn't tell me how they did things. So what I had to do was I went to the camera clubs and I learned how everything from exposure to composition to what makes a good photograph and so forth. And I'm really where I'm at today because of the camera clubs. And that's why I'm always happy to give a program. What I'm going to talk tonight about is architecture. And I look at it from different sometimes than if I'm taking it for instance, a camera club competition or something, because who I'm photographing for is the architect. And the architect, as I'll explain, wants certain things in their photograph. But what it is still the basic composition, basic technical stuff that happens with all photography. You know, and we do get to do some fun things. The screen behind me, that is a image that I did from the top of Texas Commerce Bank Tower. I think it's called Chase Tower now, that we did for a large mural. So I think I'll go to the share screen and if I can find the, let me see if I can find it, my program. Just a second. Did I lose you guys?
No. I can actually see you're looking at email here or something.
Okay. Can you see my screen, Chuck?
I can see your email.
Okay.
Email.
If you have two screens, you might be doing what I did.
No, here, I got it now.
There you go. There you go. Looks
Is that
good.
it?
Yep,
That's
it.
it.
Okay. And let me get to view, slide only, and play. Can everybody see it?
Yep, it says time of day there.
Yeah, time of day.
Okay.
Is I've lost everybody on the thing, so I can't see anybody, but that's,
You're good, Joe. I can see time of day.
We can see it.
okay, great. One of the important things about architectural photography is just simply when you shoot something, but this is true of any photography. And a lot of the photography that we shoot is either early morning or late evening. And that is sort of what I look at when I photograph any building to do, is I look at what time of day I'm going to be working. Next, the next slide. One second.
That's okay.
Here. Okay, seeing is everything. How you look at something is you look. And I'm constantly looking when I'm out scouting a job, or I'm even doing my own personal photography and everything, is I'm always looking at what would make a good photograph, what wouldn't make a photograph. You know, I'm an architectural photographer. I'm also an artist. The photograph of me is when I did an architectural shoot in Atlanta, Georgia, and I had to get on the side of a building to do the shot. Light and shadow is still the most important thing. I always look for how the shadows are or what's happening. As I said, time of day. And this is one of the secrets of photography that's coming up. You have a 3D subject that you're trying to put into a 2D thing. And one of the things that some people never get is that if you have the side of a building dark on one side and light on the other side, it has a three-dimensional quality to it. Now, from my standpoint, most people think you use the widest lens you can to shoot architecture. Actually, what I do is I use the longest lens possible for architects, because what this does is it shows the way that they are working when they do a rendering or when they think about a building and everything like that. Now, if anybody has a question, just unmute and ask a question, because I'm happy to answer the questions with no problem as we go.
Now I'll monitor the comments too in case there's any.
Okay.
When you say a long lens, how long are you talking?
Well, normally I would use the 5 lenses that I use mostly. I have 5 perspective control lenses. What I do is I look at a building and I move back and forth till I find the point where I want to be. And it could be anywhere from a 17 millimeter up to a 90 millimeter. What I use mostly is a 24 millimeter and a 45 millimeter lens on a 35 millimeter, DSL. And so what it is I'm trying to use, and I'll try to explain it as I'm going through what I'm doing with the different lenses. Camera equipment, resolution, lenses, tripod, and cable release are 5 important things. Now, sometimes when talking to camera club people like you, I think I'm going too simple, but I'm trying to do it so that I give this talk a lot to young people also. One is the camera model does not matter. There was a photographer who did pretty well. He used only 1 camera with 1 lens. And fact is, the camera manufacturer gave him a new single lens reflex with all of the lenses they had, and he sent it back and said, I think my camera that I have is good. This was a guy named Henri Cartier-Bréjean, and he was one of the great photojournalists of our time. And he used a 35 millimeter camera with a 50 millimeter lens and created a body of work that was incredible. If you aren't familiar with it, you ought to look him up. Always set it at the highest resolution possible. I have a 50 megapixel camera. It's always set at 50 megapixels for both cards. I use 2 cards in the camera, both set at raw 50 megapixels, because I want to back up in case something happens. And I have had 1 card go out and I've had to go. I use the lowest ASA possible to reduce noise, and I don't worry about long exposures. My exposures can tend to be anywhere from, a 30th of a second outside to as long as a 30-second exposure on the inside. I never worry about long exposures. I always use a tripod. I always use perspective control lenses when shooting architectures if at all possible. This is a shot of a perspective control lens, or a tilt shift. And what it is it's a lens that you can move up and down, or if you turn it, it can move sideways. And what this does is it allows you to keep the sides of your building square, and then you can move up and down to catch either less or more of the building. You can also use non-perspective control lenses. One of the problems is if you look on the photograph at the left, you'll see that if you tilt the lens up, camera up, you're getting what's called keystoning, where the sides of the building are not straight. If you're doing some advertising photography or dramatic photography, this can make your shot a lot more interesting. But when I shoot for architects, what I do is I have to keep the sides of the building straight. That's why I use the perspective control lenses. Now, you can also correct it in Photoshop. There is one little problem with Photoshop, and that is that when you keystone and you correct, what happens is it flattens the image down. So what you do then is I create a larger canvas and with white at the top, and then I literally select the image after I have straightened it, and I pull it up and down so that it starts to look like it's correct. And it's all a matter of just how I feel about it. And most people know, and after 61 years of doing this, I have a pretty good feel of what's going on. I always use the level to level my camera, even though the new ones, I don't use this level anymore. I use the one that's in the camera. The first thing I start to do after I set it up is and I have to a position where I'm going to shoot a photograph, is I level the camera. That's the very first thing that I do. I get the heaviest tripod that I can use. I use a big Gitzo tripod because it's really strong and can work well. I always use a cable release. And what this is to keep the camera from moving. And I also use with the Canon, I use what's called a mirror lockup. So when I click the camera, the camera cable release the first time, it pops the mirror up. Then I wait a few seconds for the camera to steady so it doesn't have any shake. And then I click it again, and it actually takes the photograph. Now this next slide is the first architectural photograph that I ever took in my life. It was shot when I was about 9 years old at my grandmother's place with my grandmother's camera. And as you can see that even the sides of the building were square. So I had a very early deal of it. There's good detail in the whites, good detail in the blacks, all happenstance. It was taken with a Brownie Hawkeye camera. I'm going to talk a little bit about night photography. And night photographs are not taken at night. Now, by the way, this shot is a very interesting one. If you see the building with the dome at the top, that is actually an architectural model that was about 4 foot high that I digitally shot the scene, and then I digitally dropped the model in. And that was something that was with specialty me back in the early days. As I said, night photographs are not taken at night. If you look here, you see 2 different photographs that were photographed about 25 minutes apart. If you look down at the bottom photograph shot earlier, then the sky goes completely dark, and you have no detail in the sky to differentiate the building from the sky. So normally what I would do is shoot a series of images, so that what I did was get that magic moment where the sky and the building both had detail in them. And it's something that's called the magic moment. As you can see here, you have good detail and you have sort of a dramatic shot, but the sky goes kind of dark. And this is about 20 minutes before or after sunrise, sunset. And that's the time that I shoot most of these shots. And then there's a period where the sky becomes too light, and then I wait for the sun to hit the building. As you can see here, the daytime shot versus the night shot versus the night shot. And they're all very dramatically different. Again, just different shots. This is a building downtown. What's important with sunrise and sunset is the location, the direction of the sky, the direction and the time. Normally what I do is, if you have a building facing towards the east, I would shoot it in the morning so that you have the sunset rising so that it acts like a giant softbox. and then you can get more light on the building to add some drama and detail in the building, and then you still have the drama of the sky behind being dark. So I always have the sunset or sunrise in back of me if at all possible. These were two different shots due on 2 different days. And if you can see on the left was the building was shot with a sunset, which was behind the building. And you notice there's no detail in the building. The shot on the right was shot at sunrise. You still have a drama to it, but the building has more detail in it, which is what architects look for. Something you also have to learn is the sun is furthest north in the summer and furthest south in the winter. So this determines too where it faces the building. For instance, it's always nice to shoot a north-facing building in the summer because you have the sun hitting it either early evening or late evening or early morning. It's always better to shoot a south-facing building in the summer in the winter because you have the sun hitting it, or the sun's either in the morning or evening. And of course, they normally have you shoot north-facing buildings in the summer and south-facing buildings in the winter, in the opposite of what they are. So what we try to do is convince clients to build only east or west-facing buildings. But that seemed to work. Now, some of you were talking about the lighting that was in the churches that you were shooting, the painted churches of being bright light and everything else. What I normally do when I'm shooting is I shoot scenes I shoot from a very light exposure to very dark exposure. And I don't use HDR, but what we actually do is go in and we start to individually layer. I don't like HDR because it starts to look fake. So what I will do is I will actually go in and I will start to layer. My artist, I don't do it, I have an artist on staff, and he'll pull the sky from one image, he'll pull the building from another image, then he'll pull maybe the sidewalk from another image. So what he's doing is combining all of these to make it. And this is especially important on interiors where you're wanting detail in the windows, you're wanting detail in hot lights or something like that. This kind of shows the difference of what occurs when you do this, that these are 2 shots showing that one that is the upper left one is one that is a little bit retouched. The bottom one is totally unretouched. So you can see the difference that starts to happen. Location, location, location. What the eye and mind sees is not what the camera sees. And what I had to do was, from a very early age, is what the camera club people told me is that I need to, when I go to see something and I want to photograph it, I need to get a visual image in my mind of what I want the final photograph to be. And so what it is that I had to say, for instance, one of the things that I use is if you've ever seen photographs of the Tivi fountain in Rome, especially in the movies, you see it's on this big drama of a plaza with the fountain in the background. Well, actually, it's very crowded. They use wide angle lenses. So what you have to do is you have to start to think about, what do I want that final image to look like? What do I want to encompass within that image? What lens do I need to use to get it? What time of day do I need to get it? And how close or how far away do I need to be? And those are the important things that you start to have to look at. One of the important things is to spend time looking through the finder of your camera to make sure that the image is what your mind sees or your mind wants the final image to be. This is real important. This is something that I am constantly doing, is looking. Now, I don't have to do it as much anymore because of the years of experience that I've had. But what I still do is sometimes I look through the camera just to figure out what I want to show. And then I crop in the camera wherever possible. I don't try to, zoom in and do whatever with the camera. I try to fill the frame with what I want, back off just slightly to give some crop room around the edges. But basically what I'm doing is when I look through the camera, what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out what I want to show or what I don't want to show. And then I move the camera to what it is. Now, the other thing that is important is, and this was something that was hit at me when I was taking courses at RIT, is that if you have the camera on a tripod, do not be afraid to move your camera. If once you get the camera set up, you get the camera set, the exposure set, you get the camera leveled and all of this, and you suddenly think, well, it would be better a foot to the right or foot to the left. Don't be afraid to move your camera. In other words, what you're looking for is you're looking for the best image, and you're trying to get the best image, whatever it takes. You know, it is about the little fine details in taking the picture that's really important. Many times I spend more time scouting than photographing, because what the scouting does for me, it allows me to find angles. It finds the time of day, kind of what lenses I want to use, and so forth. And it gives me a little bit of time to be able to figure out what I really want in the final image. And I visit the site with a client and do scouting photographs. And these scouting photographs are typically shot with handheld camera at a high SA. I don't worry about exposure, don't worry about color. It's just to give an idea and picking the views. Then I send these to the client, and then we go over these, and they say, we want this angle and that angle, but we want to expand it here. We want to make it sharp, less of an angle here. And so our final photographs can be tweaked from these scouting photographs. This is an image that we did scouting on first, and this is in Barcelona, Spain. And this is kind of where luck comes into it. They wanted this shot of this Diagonal del Mar, which is a big mall and office buildings and hotel and retail and parks and everything else. And so we spent probably a full day doing scouting, and we finally found this angle. And it was a residential building, condos. And we went up to the building and rang the bell, and nobody answered or anything. And we thought, oh, well, we're gonna have problems. And a guy walked up and he said, can I help you? And the guy that was with me spoke in Spanish. Yeah, in Spanish, that we wanted to take a look from the top of the building and possibly photograph it. And he says, oh, sure, come on up. So he took us up to the roof, and we looked at it. It was a perfect shot. And we knew what time of day and everything. And we talked to him. He said, would it be possible to get up there? And he says, well, just a second. He handed us a key and said, just come on in when you want to come and leave when you want to come. And it was one of those lucky things, but it was because of the scouting that we did that we were able to get this shot. I'm just going to run through now some night shots that I've done. And it kind of shows the right time of day and everything. This is Methodist Hospital Research Center. This is 1500 Louisiana, also known as Enron. Again, a lot of the scouting and everything. The Torre del Angel was in Mexico City. If you look at the shot that is in the middle on the right, we photographed that shot this was all done on 4x5 film, and I was working with a client out of New York, Stern Architects. And there was a woman there that was the most anal retentive person I've ever been with in my life. And we were shooting Polaroids, and she said, oh, I don't know, let's move over here. And we'd shoot it. No, I don't know, let's move it back over here. No, let's move 2 feet to the left. Let's come back a little bit, let's go forward. And it got to be so, I finally said to her, you need to pick an angle because we're losing our light and we're not gonna be able to get it. And it's our last night here. So finally we got this shot. 2 years later, we were photographing with her in Rio de Janeiro. And she was the easiest person I ever worked with. We were shooting digital film again, pull the pole. Oh, that's great, go ahead, whatever. Go ahead, that's great, no problem. Yeah, that's fine, don't worry about it. And we finally were talking with her, and this is the interesting things about people. We finally found out how she lost all of that perfectionism. Her apartment building was right next to the World Trade Center and she was in her apartment on 9/11. And she got she figured out finally that life was didn't need to be real difficult, that it could be kind of easy. And so she changed her whole idea about how to deal with life. This shot here, the inside was done before it got completely light because we wanted no reflections on the window. Then I shot the main building in 3 or 4 different exposures when the light was perfect for it. Then digitally we dropped in the inside. And so what it did was created the image that they wanted. And it was really what the architect had in mind. And it was what you saw if you really looked at it with your eye, but it took a lot of digital manipulation. This is the headquarters for the Union Pacific in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm gonna run through these quickly. I missed one and I don't know if I can get back to it. This is Washington, DC. It's a building that was shot, again, right at the right time of day. A building in La Jolla, California. Atlanta, Georgia. If you have any questions, holler up because I'm going pretty fast.
That's good.
BMC Software. Pacific Design Center, shot right at dusk. We did a 64-page book on the Catholic Cathedral downtown, and this was one of the images that we photographed. Again, right at the right time of day and everything like that.
I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Do you use long exposure in any of those architectural photos?
Yes. Let me see if this exposure here was probably 20 seconds.
Okay.
At f/16. I shoot everything at f/16 or f/22. Sometimes 11 if I'm far enough back to get good depth of field. But for the most part, what I try to do is shoot at 16 and 22. And one of the things I learned in my early camera days was that you focus a third of the way into the image there from where you want the focus to start and the focus to end. And by coming in a third of the way into your image and focusing there, then at 16 or 22, it should be sharp all the way.
Hey, Joe, I have a question. How do you deal with reflections off the glass?
A lot of times it's time of day, but also what we've done digitally now is we're real good at removing reflections from the glass. And an artist sometimes may spend 2 hours doing nothing but taking out reflections. A lot of times, however, like I said on the shot that was back there on the hospital, was I will shoot it at dark when there are no reflections, never move the camera, and then what I will do is drop in the non-reflected glass into it. This is a performing arts center at Sam Houston State University. Exterior photography is really the easiest type of photography that I do. And again, this is Enron again. Again, it's all about time of day, location, picking an angle and everything else. And if you notice on the 2 shots that are the glass work on the middle on the right and the bottom and on the left, it was again, keystoning does not matter because it's an artistic type shot. And it's showing what the building is, what the artwork on the inside is looking like. The shot at the top on the upper right, I keystoned a little bit to make it a little bit more dramatic. But again, I could have straightened it, but I didn't want to because I wanted that drama of that. And it's really something that you have to just kind of play with so that you're constantly thinking about what the final image is that you want. And one of my professors said, the only thing that's important is the final image. It doesn't matter how you took it. Doesn't matter what exposure, what camera, it doesn't matter anything. Only thing that's matter is the final image, because that's the only thing that the viewer will ever see. This is a project that was shot in Boston, a new building for Gerald Hines. We did a hardcover book for the new museum building at the 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago at the museum. And this is some of the shots from that. Both exterior and interior.
Hey, Joe, I tend to, when I take pictures of buildings, want to go off center to the corner and come at it from an angle. And I never have figured out if that's the right technique to use or not.
it depends on what you're trying to do, and it also depends on who you're shooting for, yourself or somebody else. I shoot a variety, but one of the things that some of my clients tend to argue with me about is I do a lot of 2-point perspective, which is straight in elevations rather than corners of buildings. But what I try to do is I try to mix it up. I try to make it a variety of shots. Now, for instance, I shot a project a couple of weeks ago, and I'm a fast shooter after this long. And I shot probably 32 images in one day. And they were only wanting 20 images. They ended up wanting all of them. But some of them are from corners, some of them are straight on, some of them are whatever. And it's just a variety. I try to mix it up. Okay. For instance, here, as you can tell, there's some from the corner, there's some straight on, there's some at an angle. So it's just a variety of different things. And again, it's what that final image, it's what you have as a vision. And
do you sometimes adjust the keystoning to get it just the way you want it?
Yes, I do. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And it's also, you know, what it is that one of the things that's important that I was taught as a kid in the camera clubs is to have a vision for what I want in my photography. And so what I have tried to do since then is one of the things is to pre-visualize it as I'm scouting a photograph or I'm looking at a photographic scene, is to pre-visualize what I want. And then to try to figure out what I have to do in order to get that. This is a small office complex up in the Woodlands called Exxon Mobil. We shot 12 days of photography there. And it was in the middle of August. And it was just like this July and this August. It was 105 degrees. They made me come in every 30 minutes. They made me hydrate for 30 minutes before I could go back out, which was great. I didn't mind that. But we shot a combination of both dusk, dawn. You probably won't be able to ever see the buildings, but it is one of the most magnificent complexes you've ever seen. It's probably about 1.5 million or 2 million square feet. They have 17 buildings, 6 labs, 200,000 square foot fitness center, and they have 17 or 18 restaurants, and then they have a 650,000 square foot conference center. It's pretty incredible. And what we tried to do is shoot both daylight and dusk. Again, picking the angles, we scouted it first. We shot for a full day, doing nothing but scouting. One of the irritable things was that they used some of my scouting. The architects wanted to bring in a couple of different photographers. They actually used my scouting photographs for the other photographers. And I said, why didn't you just use me? So, you know, it's whatever. But this is one of the shots we happened upon that we hadn't scouted at night. And this is actually I'll show you later, this is actually 2 images put together. Or wait, I'm sorry, this was shot with a 17 millimeter perspective control lens. I have a 17 millimeter, a 24 millimeter, a 45 millimeter, and a 90 millimeter perspective control lenses. So I cover a full range from wide to angle.
John, do you ever use zoom lenses at all?
Very rarely. Very rarely. I use mostly prime lenses for architecture. Now I use zoom and other things. Yeah. The only time I'd use zoom is when I need a long lens that I don't have anything else for. If you notice, the architects today like a lot of people in it. This is a combination of people being brought in. There were 12 people that were actually on me with the shoot. There were 3 from one firm, 2 from another firm, 2 from another firm, and 3 people from Exxon Mobil. And they all acted as models, and then they brought in other models, and then we would catch people as they were walking. This is probably a combination, people-wise, of about 10 or 12 shots. And as you can see here, these are models that we posed. This is the conference center. It's really an incredible space. It would be great if you could ever get in there just to do shots like this. This is the interior, and this is a piece of sculpture. You see these white things, which is actually glass pieces that replicate the molecule of oil. And there's 10,000 pieces of glass in this piece of sculpture.
How do you, Joe, how do you actually shoot straight up?
I usually, what I did on that is I take my camera off the tripod, I lay it on the floor, and I just start clicking the shutter up. And then I look at it, and then I move it whatever I need to do. And that's the way I usually do it.
Ah, okay.
Very, very old fashioned. Probably, it's harder to do multiple exposures, but I use a little bit so I can crop. And then I have my artist manipulate to get the right exposures.
Mm-hmm.
Now this shot here is very interesting. It took a setup. We did it. It took about 3 hours to do. If you look at the first level with all the people, we shot it. And if you look at the second level, all the people moved up and changed clothes and somewhat, and we shot the second level. Then they all moved up to the third level. We shot the third level. Then they moved up to the fourth level, and we shot the fourth level. And then we blended everything together digitally.
And that took 3 hours?
Took 3 hours, yeah. Here you can actually see, if you look up at the top, the sculpture that hangs down. And again, this is combinations of people. Some of the people are the same in all of the images. And what it is we photographed people at different levels, and then we brought them all together. This is why architectural photography, to a certain extent, in some cases has been put on hold for a while. Luckily, there's exterior photography where they don't require this.
Did you try different things, such as, let's take a look at the second level. Did you try that with like 3 people and then 4 people and then like 1 person and select which one you wanted?
Yeah, we did. But actually what we ended up doing is we shot without people completely. We put the scene together. Then my artist dropped in people where they wanted people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is a high school stadium in Baton Rouge. I think it's called LSU Stadium. And I photographed the stadium for the architect.
High school?
Do we have any LSU people here?
You've got at least one.
And I photographed it both with people and without people. And it was a very interesting shoot, especially with people. This is the stadium. I got ran off the field after I shot this because I wasn't supposed to be on the field before the game started. And this is one of the club rooms for the people who pay a little bit more for their shots. And so I sometimes, this building here is 609 Main. We photographed it for about 6 days, a Heinz building. And I'm just going to run quickly through these. These are shots that, you know, here's a shot looking straight up. This is the corner of the building, which is real dramatic, a shot from the parking garage across the street.
Nice.
This is looking straight up from the inside. A lot of these shots you wouldn't be able to get. This shot you could get because it's shot from the street. By the way, if you're shooting downtown, they're going to start to run you off from the corners. If you will go to the American Civil Liberties Union website, they have a download for photographing from public spaces.
Yes.
And any sidewalk is a public space. And you can shoot from any sidewalk that you want to shoot from. You can shoot also Metro, though the Metro police will try to run you off. There's only certain places like military places that you can't shoot. And Shell tried to run me off their sidewalk, their security one time, and said Shell wouldn't like it. And I said, well, I don't give a blank what Shell thinks. And he didn't really appreciate it, but you know, nothing he could do.
Hey,
Now, we were talking about reflections. This was entirely covered with reflections of other buildings and lights. and it was all removed by my artist. If you look over on the entranceway, you see some red lights that he forgot to take out. Interior shot here. We did the entire shot. This is 2 images, top and bottom, seamed together. And then the people, were, as they were walking and everything, we caught them and then we dropped them in. Same thing here. This is shot with a 17mm perspective control lens.
Joe, do you ever use a fisheye lens?
Very rarely. I don't even have one anymore. It's not real good for architecture photography.
Okay.
Interior photography is the hardest photography I do. This is a shot that I shot a few years ago. Looks like a very simple shot, residents at the Ritz-Carlton in Dallas, looking from outside in, showing the, these were to sell their suites. But if you look at this shot and you look at the right, you can see how I lit it. I used about 10 or 12 lights to light the scene. And that was the way that I use a lot of these lights in shooting interior photography, even today with digital, though I'm not using them as much as I am. I use big spots, which are a staple of the movie industry. These are sold by a movie company out of New York.
Bo Richardson.
Bo Richardson. They have
Bo Richardson.
What? Mole Richardson.
Yeah, that's Bo.
And called mole lights to the industry. And I carry cases. I have 3 cases. I have 9 lights, or 4 cases. I have 12 lights that I can carry. You can use snoots, and also if you notice the little screen up there, that is used to make you can put those in there to make the light dimmer or make it dimmer if you need less light on the thing.
Are these LED lights, Joe?
No, they're actually hot lights, incandescent.
Incandescent.
What I have found with digital is there's less problems with shooting tungsten lighting with combinations of LEDs and such. You have to do a little correction in post-production, but they're still, and these lights are about $200 a piece. The LED lights in the same configuration are $700 a piece.
Ooh.
So I have never gone to them and everything. And a lot of times too, I'm shooting the way I'm shooting with multiple exposures. I just simply never use lighting at all. This is an interesting project. This is the aquarium downtown we shot. If you'll notice in the lower right-hand picture, you'll see all the fish there. This exposure on this for this was 30 seconds. Of course, the fish wouldn't stand still. They wouldn't let me kill them all and stick them in there. So what I had to do was I shot at 6400 ASA wide open, and I shot the fish, and then my artist dropped them in. The same with all the other images that have fish in them. You have to kind of improvise. Sometimes on an interior shot, for instance, the interior shot at the top, working with that particular client, it took us about 2 hours to find a location, to do the propping, to set up the lighting and everything else. It takes a long time to do that type of view. Did you have a question, Kathleen? No, okay.
No.
Anyway, again, what it is the propping and everything is as important as anything else. This is the, what's the name of the hotel downtown? God, I just lost it. Designed by Arquitectonica. It's a convention hotel downtown. And the shot on the left, I used more lights. This was shot on film. And I used more lights on that shot than I have ever used on any shot in my life. And that is because of the dark woods, the light ceiling, and we couldn't do any of the manipulation with digital that we can do today. Now this next shot I love, and I actually have a shot like this showing the sculpture that's in the shot on the left. Big Boy Hamburgers.
Big boys.
And this is one of the biggest law firms in town. They have a sense of humor. This is Gerald Himes's offices downtown that I photographed, again, using people. One of the things that I did for them was they had me create murals for their offices. And this was shot with the 50 megapixel Canon camera, 48 megapixels, whatever it is. And they're sharp as a tack. They just came up beautifully. All black and white, printed on wallpaper, and then applied.
Hmm.
And you can see the detail here in the buildings. This is not Lone Star. Lone Star College in the Woodlands. And again, I shot with people and during a class. And then to show the graphics that are on the windows, I tried to use an inside-outside type situation. Again, a lot of digital work on this. I love digital for architecture. This is a building in Oklahoma City that I photographed.
How much time did your artist spend on each picture to get it the way you want it?
I'm sorry, what? Say that again?
I said, about how much time does your artist spend on each of these pictures to get them where you want them?
He'll spend anywhere from 30 to 2 hours, 30 minutes to 2 hours. And the way I charge is I charge unless there's special retouching to be done, I charge a day rate. I charge a rate for my camera usage, and then I charge an image for each image post-production. My current day rate can range between $2,000 and $2,400 a day. Camera charge, I had to charge $125 a day for the use of the digital camera. And then I charge $120 for each image that's retouched. It's all published work. This building here was the tallest building in Oklahoma City. That's where I grew up. It is twice as tall as any other building in Oklahoma City. I think Oklahoma City calls it the Big Erection. Do you see the paneling there on the wood? That is all flat. That is all done by different colors of wood to make it look like 3D.
Oh.
Again, without a person, this photograph would look kind of dull. What were you going to say, Kathleen? Somebody was talking.
You see floors like that in Europe in the cathedrals.
Exactly, exactly. This was a shot in the building. They tore down a very Art Deco building to build the parking garage. So the entrance from the parking garage to the building now has pieces of the sculpture in it. Without a person, it had no depth. It kind of looked blank, and that's where a person really helps sometimes. This is only probably one of 2 images I have ever been in an architectural image, and nobody else was around, so I had to be the model, which I hate. And my assistant actually photographed it.
Now, is this one, was that one photo?
Yes, it was one photograph, yeah. We do a lot of retouching on images, and this is an image. I was in Boston shooting. I only had 1 day to be there. We had a crappy day. I talked my way into an art school, shot from their window, had to move a bunch of stuff and everything, and I brought it back, and I knew they would hated it. So I had my artist work on it, and this was the photograph after retouching. And the sky is from Houston. The building and the reflection in the sky is from Houston, and then the building did a lot of retouching with contrast and hue saturation and everything else. I often will do 2 shots at the same time. I did the shot at the top and the shot at the bottom. I couldn't get what I wanted with a wide angle lens because of the distortion in the perspective. And I often will use a longer lens and take 2 images, and then I will connect them in Photoshop. So you can see the 2 shots merged after that. It's really easy to do with the perspective control lenses. we take out, if you notice the trailers and the grass on the right, then we put in new grass and took out the trailers on the left. I got a call from Hines that they were working on the Crystal Bridges Museum in, where's Walmart headquarters? Bentonville, Arkansas. They said the building is not completely finished, but it's enough finished to take the photograph, so we need it for a brochure next week. Can you run over there and take it? I got over there, and those were the 2 shots above that were the finished enough to shoot. And so what I had to do was I had my artist, I had to play around with shooting different. The bridge on the right wasn't lit. I had to go over and shoot the bridge on the left and then warp it into the bridge on the right on the final photograph. Then I had to add water. Then I had to add lights to all the other scene and put water in and everything else, and came up with this shot to show the finished project. It did run full page in the New York Times, which was nice. And I got more compliments on it from that than anything. This building here, they wanted to show a building on the right that was basically parts of the one on the left. So what I did was I photographed it at sunrise and sunset, and I brought all the parts together and completed the building on the right.
Mm.
So that's pretty well the architectural work. Is there any questions on what I've talked about or anything before I show some personal work?
What are your settings when you're usually like sunrise, sunset?
I will photograph usually at ASA 100 or 200. I have found no difference with the newer cameras as far as, noise and such. And I sometimes even go to 400, but very rarely. I normally shoot everything at f/16, sometimes at f/22 if I need a more depth of field. And if I'm shooting at a distance where I think it can handle it, I may shoot f/11 on sunset or sunrise. And of course, I shoot everything on a tripod. So my exposures will range on anywhere from 1/2 second to 30 seconds. And that really depends. If I have to shoot 30 seconds and I'm still dark, then I'll go to ASA 200 or AS 400 or f/11 in order to shoot.
What kind of, you said that you had a 50 megapixel camera. What kind of camera do you have?
I have the Canon R something. I don't remember what the exact name of it is. Just a second. It's the Canon EOS 5DS.
Very nice.
Yeah, the
Good camera.
5DS has a filter on it. The 5DR has no filter on it. And it's a great camera. It really works well. And like I said, I took some images up to 9 feet by 15 feet, and they were perfectly sharp. It's really beautiful.
Hmm.
Now the Nikon 850 is an equivalent to it. I think it has close to the same megapixels or even maybe a little bit more. And Canon's supposed to be coming out with a 75 megapixel. A lot of architectural photographers are using a back, phase 1 back, but I've never gone to it because I didn't want to invest $40,000 in a camera and setup. So, and the cameras, unless you use it on a view camera, they don't have the perspective control lenses. Now,
Have you had your dinner?
Joe?
yeah,
Hey, Joe, when's the last time you shot with a 4x5 view camera?
probably 14 years ago, 12 years ago.
Okay.
Like
Me too.
I have done a lot of personal work, and I didn't really start showing it in galleries until about 2007. And I've had four or five gallery shows, and I'm booked up with a gallery right now. And I have work in the museum, and it was just by chance that the gallery gave me my first show. And so I've shot over the years quite a bit of stuff, and you know, things like this. This was, I call Angel Flight, and it was actually, I just was sitting on top of a building waiting for sunset, and I saw these clouds of interest and had the camera on tripod, and I just kept shooting. And when I came back, this is totally unretouched. Believe me, it's totally unretouched.
My
and
gosh.
it's amazing. And I call it Angel Flight. It was dedicated to the Angel Flight, which is a group of airplane pilots that I gave them a bunch of prints to sell. They transport kids who need medication all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
This is the chimneys of Antonio Gaudí in Barcelona, Spain. And I shot up there for a day or two with 35mm slides, which was very interesting. I found them fascinating, but the slides to me were pretty dull. And so what I did was I brought them into Photoshop and I started playing around with them. And this was my first gallery show. One of these images is in the Museum of Fine Arts. If you notice here, what I did on this was I actually, once I did all my manipulation, I started bringing back the dark areas, like where the red and the yellow is, by taking the wand in lightning area in Photoshop. And I just went for about 20 minutes. And what came up was these red and the yellow. And I started doing the same on the center. And this little creature came up. And I left it. I never went further. But if you notice in the center, there is sort of a gargoyle looking creature.
Yeah.
We're eerie. But what I did was brought out, all the chimneys are terracotta. And I brought out the terracotta through hue and saturation and contrast. Then I lightened and darkened them. And then I made just a lot of corrections on them. And then I did some further playing around with lightening the dark areas. Really weird.
That is really strange.
It's called, I don't remember what I called it, but it had a strange name. And then what I did was put them all together. And this is an installation that I did. The top row is the Antonio Gaudí. The bottom row is the skin from the Guggenheim Museum by Frank Gehry in Bilbao, Spain. And it's amazing how they flow together. And this was for a dance and music performing arts center in Sam Houston State University. And the dance people think it looks like dancers, and the musicians think like it musicians and whatever, but it's 8 feet by 28 feet long. I went to Tibet in 2007, I think it was, or 26, and photographed people. And the shot at the bottom, I took one and stood in one spot and just watched the same window and watched people go by. And then I started to play around with the images, and I started doing photo mosaics. And I filled the people with what China is doing to Tibet. I'm not going to get political, but what China is doing to Tibet is a shame. And what I thought of is what sometimes happens to indigenous people, or people in general. And what I did was I filled this monk with images of atomic bombs going off. And it's
very interesting.
I'm sorry?
Very interesting. I like that. Very
Thank
beautiful.
you. And this is the couple, the mother and father of our guide, and it's filled with atrocities. And this is the monk, again, filled with atrocities. The monk is actually a collection of the Museum of Fine Arts. And it also won first prize in a juried competition that they had at the Holocaust Museum recently, a couple years ago. This is a large art installation that I did at Sam Houston State University for one of their classroom buildings. It's actually in the Woodlands. And what it is it's panels that are made like individual panels, but then they're raised and they're different levels and different images so that they all come together to form one image. This is a large installation. This is backlit plexiglass. There is 9 panels. It's 6 foot high by 12 feet wide. And it's printed on plexiglass front and back, and then has a light box behind it so that it looks forward, that you see through it. This is a wallpaper installation I did for Dow Chemical.
Beautiful.
This is one of my newer series where I leave the camera set up from about 4 o'clock in the afternoon till sunset. or dark after dark. And what I try to do is show from sunset to daylight, and then I flip it. I don't wait 24 hours, but it's called 24 hours. And it basically just showed like 24 hours in a day passing on one site.
So say that again.
I set the camera up on a tripod.
Right.
If you look at half of it,
Right.
look at the right half. I photograph sunrise, daylight. Wait to sunset, photograph sunset. Then I photograph after dark or at sunset to get the stars and the sunset. I may combine two images there. Then I blend them all together and then I flip it and make it 24 hours in a day.
Ah, okay. Very cool.
This is a permanent installation that I did at the George R. Brown in George R. Brown downtown. And it's printed on metal. Me and another artist did it, Tammy Merrick. She did the painting between and I did the photographs. They're bookmarked. One side is blue and one side is green to kind of show the difference between, as you come in, it's green, and as you go out, it's blue. So you're coming in from the green and you're going out to the blue sky. And it shows the different, it shows an oil refinery, downtown Houston, the Bayou, oil, downtown Houston, and then the Bayou again. This is my latest project, and this is still up actually downtown if you're ever downtown. And what it is it's called Faces of the Other. I'll put in the chat room the website for it. It's called facesoftheother.com is the website. And it's 52 large portraits, 3 foot by 5 foot, printed on aluminum that are then were put up on the fences around Christ Church Episcopal Cathedral downtown. And it's a wide range to show the variety of people that actually live in Houston. From artists, this is an artist. This is actually a little cowboy from Liberty, Texas. Actually, this would be an interesting, once they start having them again next February, it would be an interesting field trip because they're happy to have photographers come in. It's at Liberty, Texas. And if you Google youth rodeos, it will come up. And there's youth rodeos all over the state. And these are called mutton busters. And you can photograph them on their sheep or you can photograph them before and whatever. This was an 18-month project for me. A wide range of people. I saw this gentleman with all his tattoos with his young son, and I thought the contrast between them was just incredible. This is a bicyclist, a motorcyclist. And if you read his patch, it actually says in memory of the 50,000 who never came back from Vietnam. He's part of the veterans motorcycle group, and they go to a lot of funerals and everything. The way I photographed them was outside, no lighting, no nothing. I would bring them outside, put them in the shade. I was usually in the sun. I used the background as a large sort of light box. I would tell them just get comfortable. They would get comfortable and I would fool around with setting up and they thought I was setting up. And then I would turn and I would snap them so that I caught them kind of in a pose that was not real formal. This is a woman that's head of a place that feeds about 500 families a week. Muslim woman, a cab driver, just a gentleman I saw at a coffee shop. This is Richard, who's a friend of mine. He works 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. I saw him this evening collecting junk, and he sells junk to support himself. This was the first photograph I took for the project. They were looking for a photographer. I took this. The 2 people that were in charge of it saw it and said, "You're hired." There's no money involved, but you're hired. And so it was a labor of love. And this is a father and their son going to a baseball game down at the Astros Arena. This is a chef and head of the homeless unit down at Christ Church Cathedral that feeds about 500 homeless every day.
Joe?
Uh-huh.
How many pictures did you actually take?
I took about 115.
And then how many did you?
42.
42.
Yeah. So, and what I did was, the way we chose them was I made 11 by 14 prints, and I put them in my studio up with tacks. And then me and the two women, Rami McMurtry, who used to own a photo gallery here, and the woman that runs Christchurch Cathedral Gallery, we went around and we picked out images, and we picked out 42 that we wanted to put on the fences. And we argued a lot. We made a lot of changes, made a lot of difference in it and everything. And then once we got that, then I took all the prints, and we we spent about 3 hours figuring out where they would go on the fence, as far as how they would be curated, as what would go to next to one another and everything else.
Hey, Joe,
And then we printed it. Yes.
do you get a signed release from these people, or is that necessary?
Yes, I have a signed release from every one of them. Yeah. And what I did was to bind the release. If you get a release, model release, you either need to give them $1 or something. And I gave them all of 11 by 14 color photograph of me, which I sell for around $2,000. So they got a binder on it. A lawyer, front of the courthouse, an architect friend of mine, and this is Goddess, a homeless person. And this is 3 of the images back up on the fence.
So Joe, did you shoot these handheld, or did you shoot them all on a tripod?
Everything was on a tripod, and everything was shot between 300 and 400 millimeter lens, zoom lens. I wanted to compress things, and I wanted to stay away from them quite a distance. And everything is shot almost full image. I did crop a couple of them because of some circumstances, and all of them, with the exception of darkening the background a little bit, are totally unretouched. None of the faces, nothing is retouched. Like, for instance, I have a doctor in it. He had Methodist Hospital on his jacket. I took the Methodist off. There's another one of a guy that had ballet on it with the name of the hotel. I took that off. But otherwise, I just left them. They're all just practically the same. I mean, you know. And the protest march went down the street. The windows in the hotel were totally destroyed. None of the pictures were destroyed. And in fact, the church wrote me and said, "We thank you because we don't think they hurt the art, because they thought it was art." And we want to thank you for having them up. 4 of the images were destroyed later. And surprisingly, it was a white skateboarder and the police caught him, and they didn't do anything to him. They just let him go. And I wish they'd caught him so he could have paid for the $150 an image that I had to do to reprint them. So, but it was quite imaging. I'll repeat, only the final image is important. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. How you shot it, when you shot it, where you took it, whatever. It's the image, because most people look at an image and they don't care about anything else. They want how it's done. Most images, for instance, in museum, the average time that a person looks at a painting or a photograph in a museum is 9 seconds, 9 to 12 seconds. If you can catch them and keep them for 16 to 30 seconds, you've created a fabulous image. And that's the thing that you're looking for. Thanks to all the Camera Club members that taught a 17-year-old kid how to be a pro photographer, especially the Oklahoma Camera Club. Hopefully the old farts will now pass it along to the youngsters so the clubs and the professional grow. There are no secrets, just mentors. That's the only thing that we can be.
Terrific.
Excellent.
If you aren't a member of it, I suggest you go to look up Photographic Society of America. It costs you $50 to join. I have been a member. I just passed 50 years as a member.
Really?
And if you'll just look up Photographic Society, Google it. It costs $50 a year, maybe less for seniors. They have a magazine, 4-color, very slick magazine with 5 or 6 articles every month on how to do things. Shoot birds to rodeos, to travel, to 3D, whatever. And with PSA, the learning never stops. So
do they have a digital magazine, or is it just a hard copy?
you can get it either digital or hard copy, either one.
Okay.
Hard copy, either one.
So if the club got a membership, we could put the digital on our website?
I don't know. You need to ask them about that. But I would recommend that the club join, because they do have programs that you can get if you miss a program, for instance, or they have if you join as an individual member, what they're beginning to have now is they have 3 or 4 webinars every month on different subjects.
Okay.
And I don't remember what the last one is. I think the one that I just saw that was on how to shoot birds. And the other one was on how to shoot people on a travel log, things like that. So very good deal.
This was really an excellent presentation, Joe.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Really enjoyable.
Thank you.
And on that Exxon, my husband worked for Exxon. His name, did you see the wall with all the names of the patents?
I sure did, yes.
My husband is on that, and Jim got me there. And so I took pictures of the wall, went home and sorted through so I could find his name, which I did eventually.
Good. How do I get off of this?
Just go to the share at the bottom and stop, or on top, I'm sorry, it'll say stop sharing. Little bar at the top of your window somewhere. Okay.
Okay. Now.
Yeah, that looks good. Better?
View options, I think. Click
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, go up above and you'll say,
there
you go. There you go. Hey, thank you. Extreme. That's a great.
Very nice. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Any questions from anybody?
Really enjoyable. And Chuck, if you can put the replay up on our website somewhere.
I'll do that. It's still, I still have it recording. You want me to record through Share and Learn, or you want me to stop now?
Why don't you stop now? That's fine.
Okay, I'll do that. All right.
If you have any questions, I put